Myra always believed she had the perfect life. She lived in a beautiful, big house on the edge of town, where the sunlight streamed in through tall windows and filled every room with warmth. The garden outside was full of colorful flowers, and the soft sound of birdsong seemed to welcome anyone who visited. It was a house built on success. Her husband Arun's hard work in business had given them everything they could want. Myra often thought about how lucky she was. She had a loving husband, a beautiful baby girl named Anya, and everything money could buy. The house was full of quiet comforts, soft carpets, shining furniture, and walls decorated with art. But for Myra, the greatest treasure was Anya, her tiny baby who had just started to smile and reach out with little hands. Arun was often busy with work, but he made sure to spend time with the family. He loved holding Anya and watching her grow. Myra and Arun had dreamed of this moment for years, the day when they would bring their child home and begin their new life as a family. Yet, despite all the happiness, Myra felt tired. The long nights with the baby, the constant care, and the worries about being a good mother weighed on her. She missed her old life sometimes when she had time for herself and her work. Now, her days were filled with feeding, changing, and soothing Anya. It was a full-time job with no breaks. Because of this, Myra and Arun had hired a housekeeper named Lila. Lila was a quiet woman, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She had worked for many families before but had been with Myra and Arun's family for almost a year now. Lila helped with cleaning the house, cooking meals, and, most importantly, caring for Anya when Myra needed a rest. Myra trusted Lila deeply. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, Lila was there to hold Anya, rock her gently, and sing soft songs. Myra watched as Lila patiently played with the baby, making her laugh and smile. It was a relief to know someone could help in those difficult moments. One sunny morning, Myra stood by the window and looked out at the garden. The fresh flowers reminded her of new beginnings. She smiled as Anya lay in her crib, peacefully sleeping. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of cars on the street. Myra was getting ready to return to work after her maternity leave. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Would Anya be safe? Would she be able to balance her job and motherhood? These thoughts filled her mind as she dressed carefully, choosing a simple but elegant outfit. Arun entered the room and smiled at her. "You look ready," he said, gently touching her shoulder. Myra nodded. "I am nervous. I hope Lila can take good care of Anya while I'm gone." Arun smiled reassuringly. "Lila is like family now. She knows how to care for Anya better than anyone." Myra wanted to believe him, but a small worry stayed hidden deep inside her heart. What if something went wrong? What if she missed something important? That day, as Myra prepared to leave, she kissed Anya on the forehead and handed her to Lila. "Please be careful," she whispered. Lila nodded with a gentle smile. "Don't worry, Myra. Anya is safe." Myra left the house, trying to keep her mind on work. But her thoughts kept drifting back to her baby. She checked her phone often, counting the minutes until she could return home. Meanwhile, Lila went about her day quietly. She cleaned the kitchen, did the laundry, and kept Anya close. The baby was happy, smiling at Lila as she played with her toys. As the hours passed, Myra's worries grew stronger. She called the house twice, asking to speak to Lila and hear Anya's voice. Lila answered gently, telling Myra everything was fine and that Anya had eaten well. But still, Myra's heart did not calm. She felt a strange heaviness she could not explain. The distance between her and her child felt like a weight on her chest. At the end of the day, Myra decided to come home early. She told Arun quietly that she wanted to see Anya before dinner. When Myra walked through the front door, she felt a sudden rush of relief. Anya was in Lila's arms, smiling and calm. But then something caught Myra's eye. Lila's hands were shaking slightly, and Anya looked restless for a moment. Myra's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced with fear and doubt. Could something have happened while she was away? She tried to push the thought away, but it stayed, growing stronger. That night, Myra sat alone in her room, staring at the baby monitor. Every small sound made her jump. Her mind was full of questions, but she had no answers. Was Lila really the person she thought she was? Could she trust her with the most precious thing in her life? Myra's perfect life suddenly felt fragile, like a glass that might break at any moment. The next morning, Myra woke up feeling restless. The night had been long and full of worries. Every small noise from the baby monitor had made her jump. When she finally opened her eyes, the sunlight was soft and gentle, but her mind was heavy with doubt. She moved quietly so she would not wake Arun. He was still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm inside Myra's heart. She sat by the window, holding a cup of tea, and tried to calm her racing thoughts. Lila arrived soon after. As usual, she greeted Myra with a warm smile and went straight to the nursery to check on Anya. Myra watched her carefully, her eyes searching for any sign of the truth hidden beneath Lila's calm face. At first, everything seemed normal. Lila handled the baby gently and spoke softly. Anya smiled and reached for her with tiny hands. But then, Myra saw something that made her heart stop: a small bruise on Anya's arm. Myra's breath caught in her throat. How had this happened? Was it an accident? Or was it something worse? Her mind began to fill with images she could not ignore. What if Lila was not as careful as she seemed? What if she had hurt Anya when no one was watching? The fear grew quickly inside Myra, pushing away all the trust she once had. She could not keep the questions silent any longer. Lila, Myra said softly, trying to keep her voice steady, can you tell me how Anya got this bruise? Lila looked surprised and then worried. She gently took Anya in her arms and examined the baby's arm carefully. I don't know, Myra. I have been very careful with her. Maybe she bumped into something while playing. Myra shook her head, unable to believe it. The bruise looked too large and fresh for a simple bump. I was not here all day, Myra said, her voice trembling. What happened when I was away? Lila's eyes filled with tears. I swear, Myra, I would never hurt Anya. She is like my own child. But Myra's fear was stronger than Lila's words. She could not stop the thought growing in her mind. Later that day, Myra asked Arun to come home early. When he arrived, she told him about the bruise and her worries. Arun frowned. We should be careful before accusing anyone. Lila has helped us so much. Let's try to find the truth calmly. But Myra was not calm. She felt a storm inside her heart, full of anger and fear. She wanted answers, and she wanted them now. That evening, Myra stayed awake, watching Anya sleep. She noticed how the baby sometimes moved suddenly, like she was uncomfortable or scared. Myra's mind kept going back to the bruise and Lila's shaking hands from the day before. She wondered if there were things she had missed. Maybe signs she had ignored. The house felt quieter than usual. Arun was busy with work, often staying late at the office. Myra felt more alone than ever. She tried to talk to Lila, but the words came out awkward and cold. One afternoon, Myra followed Lila as she cared for Anya. She watched every movement closely. When Lila picked up the baby, Myra noticed how her fingers trembled again. The small shaking seemed more than just tiredness. Suddenly, Myra's heart filled with anger. How could someone she trusted be so careless? How could they risk hurting her baby? She made a decision she never thought she would make. She wanted to confront Lila, to ask her directly about the bruise and the shaking hands. Myra knew it would be difficult, but she had to protect Anya. That evening, after dinner, Myra asked Arun to join her in the living room. She took a deep breath and said, "I need to talk to Lila. I want to know the truth." Arun looked surprised but nodded. "I understand. We need to be sure." Myra called Lila to the room. The housekeeper entered, her eyes calm but wary. She sat down quietly, waiting for Myra to speak. Myra looked at Lila and said, "I saw the bruise on Anya's arm. I saw your hands shaking. I need to know what is happening. Have you been careless? Have you hurt my baby?" Lila's face turned pale. She took a deep breath and looked directly at Myra. "No, Myra," she said softly. "I have not hurt Anya. I love her like she is my own. I am sorry if my hands shook. I have been worried and tired, but never careless." Myra wanted to believe her, but the fear in her chest was too strong. She felt trapped between her love for Anya and her growing doubt. The room grew quiet. Arun watched the two women carefully, sensing the pain on both sides. Then, something unexpected happened. Anya began to cry softly, breaking the heavy silence. Lila immediately stood up and went to the baby's side. She held Anya close, rocking her gently until the crying stopped. Myra watched, feeling her anger soften. She saw the care and love in Lila's eyes as she comforted the baby. Still, Myra knew she could not ignore the bruise or the shaking hands. She had to find the truth, no matter how hard it was. That night, Myra lay awake, thinking about what she had seen and heard. She realized that fear had made her see shadows where there might be none. But she also knew that as a mother, she could never stop worrying. Her perfect life had changed. The trust she once felt was now mixed with fear. The questions in her heart were loud and painful. Myra did not know what would happen next. But one thing was clear: she could not ignore the feeling that something was wrong. And so, the day ended with Myra torn between love and doubt, trust and fear, hope and pain. The days after Myra's confrontation with Lila passed slowly, filled with tension and quiet moments. Myra tried to act normal, but her mind was clouded with worry. Every time she looked at Anya, her heart beat faster. She watched Lila closely, searching for signs: any small mistake, a careless touch, or something that would prove her fears. But Lila continued her work calmly. She was gentle with the baby, always patient and kind. Anya smiled when she was near, reaching for her with small hands. Lila's soft singing filled the house in the afternoons, and even Arun noticed how well she cared for their daughter. Still, Myra could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. One evening, as Myra was putting Anya to sleep, she noticed the baby wince suddenly, a small cry escaping her lips. Myra's heart jumped. She looked at Anya's arm carefully and saw the bruise again, faint but still there. This time, the sight made her freeze. She wanted to cry, to scream, and to protect her baby all at once. Tears filled her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away before Arun could see. Arun came into the room and sat beside her quietly. "What is wrong?" he asked softly. Myra hesitated, but the fear inside her pushed her to speak. "The bruise is still there. I don't understand how this is happening. I'm scared, Arun." Arun reached out and took her hand. "We will figure this out, Myra. I promise." The next morning, Myra decided she needed to know more. She could not live with fear without answers. She talked to a neighbor who often saw Lila around the garden. The neighbor said Lila seemed kind but looked tired and worried sometimes. Myra's mind raced. Was Lila hiding something? Was she too tired to care properly for Anya? Or was there something else, something Myra could not yet see? Later that day, Myra found herself alone in the nursery. She watched Lila feed Anya and noticed again the trembling hands. The sight made Myra's chest tighten. She wanted to believe Lila was tired, but the doubt was too strong. Myra's feelings were a mixture of sadness, anger, and confusion. She wanted to trust Lila, but fear was breaking the walls of that trust. She shared her concerns with Arun, hoping he would understand. But Arun was calm and patient. "We cannot blame anyone without proof," he said. "We must be careful with our words." Myra nodded but felt alone in her worries. One afternoon, Myra was in the living room when she overheard a phone call between Lila and someone she did not know. The voice on the other side was quiet, but Myra caught a few words that made her heart race: worried about Anya, tired, need help. Myra's mind jumped to the worst possibilities. Was Lila asking for help because she could not take care of Anya? Or was there something more serious? Her thoughts were interrupted when Arun came home early. He saw the worried look on Myra's face and sat beside her. Myra told him about the phone call. Arun frowned. "Maybe Lila is just struggling with the work. It's not easy to care for a baby all day. We should talk to her." That evening, the three of them sat down together. Arun spoke kindly to Lila. "Is everything all right, Lila? Are you feeling well? Do you need help?" Lila looked down, then nodded slowly. "I have been tired, yes. The work is hard, and I worry about Anya. I want to do my best." Myra listened, her heart softening a little. She realized Lila was not a villain but a human being facing challenges. But then, something unexpected happened. Arun received a phone call during the conversation. He stepped outside to answer, leaving Myra and Lila alone. Myra looked at Lila, feeling a mix of emotions. "Lila, I want to believe you. But the bruise, the shaking hands. I'm scared. I need to know the truth." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry, Myra. I never wanted to hurt Anya. If I did, it was an accident. I love her like my own." Myra's tears fell freely now. She wanted to scream in frustration, to find the truth, but she felt powerless. When Arun returned, he saw the sadness on both women's faces. He knew the house was no longer a place of peace. That night, Myra sat by the window again, looking out at the dark sky. The stars twinkled softly, but her world felt full of shadows. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was a call from a close friend, someone who had always been honest with her. "Myra, I heard about the trouble with Lila," the friend said gently. "Maybe you need to take a step back and look at everything clearly. Sometimes fear makes us see things that aren't real." Myra listened quietly. The words felt strange but true. She realized she needed help not just to care for Anya but to care for herself. The next day, Myra decided to speak to Arun openly. "I think I need to talk to someone. A doctor, maybe. This fear is hurting me." Arun smiled softly and hugged her. "We will get through this, Myra. Together." The house felt quieter again, but this time there was a small light, a hope that maybe the truth would come, and peace would return. But deep inside, Myra knew the journey was just beginning. After Myra's decision to seek help, life in the house seemed to slow down. Arun supported her quietly but firmly, understanding that her worries were more than just about Lila or the bruise. They both wanted peace not only for Anya but for their family. Myra met with a doctor, who listened carefully to her fears and exhaustion. The doctor explained how being a new mother could sometimes cause feelings of anxiety and doubt. Myra felt a small relief, but her mind still searched for answers. Meanwhile, Arun took a different step. He wanted to find the truth in his own way. He set up a small camera in the nursery, hoping to see exactly what happened during the day when Myra was at work. Myra watched nervously as the days passed. She did not want to believe Lila was guilty, but she needed to know the truth. Every evening, she and Arun sat together to watch the recordings. The first videos showed Lila gently feeding Anya, singing lullabies, and softly rocking her to sleep. Anya smiled and reached for Lila's hand. Myra's heart softened each time she saw these moments. But on the third day, something unexpected appeared on the video. Lila's hands trembled as she picked up Anya, and the baby cried loudly. Lila quickly tried to calm her, but Myra noticed a moment when Lila looked worried and almost afraid. Myra's chest tightened. Was this tiredness or something more? That evening, Myra could not sleep. She stared at the screen again and again, looking for clues. She wanted to believe Lila was only tired, but the fear still whispered inside her. Arun noticed Myra's struggle. He sat beside her quietly and said, "We must be patient, Myra. This is hard for everyone." Myra nodded but felt alone with her thoughts. One afternoon, Arun went outside to speak with a neighbor who had known Lila for many years. The neighbor said that Lila was kind but had been facing problems recently. Her mother was ill, and she was worried about her family. Arun felt a wave of sympathy. Maybe the stress was causing Lila's trembling hands. He shared this with Myra. "Lila is dealing with a lot. We should help her, not judge." Myra wanted to agree, but the bruise and the shaking hands kept her doubt alive. One evening, Myra found herself alone in the nursery again. She gently touched Anya's small arm, feeling the faint bruise under her fingers. Myra wished she could take away all the pain and fear from her baby's tiny body. Lila entered quietly and sat beside her. "Myra, I know you are worried. I understand why. But I promise you, I would never hurt Anya." Myra looked into Lila's eyes and saw honesty. But trust was not easy to give back. "I want to believe you," Myra said softly. "But I am scared. I don't know what to do." Lila reached out and held Myra's hand. "Let me help you. Let me be part of the solution." Myra felt warmth in that touch. For the first time in days, she felt a little less alone. The next morning, Arun called a meeting with a trusted family friend, a kind woman who had experience with children and caregiving. She agreed to come to the house and help watch over Anya while Myra and Arun tried to understand the situation better. For the first time in weeks, Myra felt hope. With more eyes watching and caring, maybe the truth would come to light. Days passed with the friend's help. She was gentle with the baby and supportive of Myra. She noticed how Myra's fear made her tense and tried to comfort her. One afternoon, the friend found Myra sitting quietly in the garden, tears falling silently. "Myra," she said softly, "it is okay to be scared. But don't forget, love is stronger than fear." Myra looked up and nodded. "I want to believe that." Meanwhile, Arun continued to watch the nursery camera every day. One evening, he saw something that stopped his heart. On the screen, Myra was nowhere to be seen, but the baby was restless. Lila was holding Anya carefully, but then something unexpected happened. Anya suddenly reached out toward a small toy on the floor. As Lila tried to catch it, Anya slipped slightly from her arms. Lila caught her quickly, but the baby cried loudly. Arun rewound the video and watched again. It was clear that it was an accident, not a careless act. Lila looked terrified, immediately comforting Anya and checking her over carefully. Arun smiled softly. This was the truth he had hoped to see. The next morning, he called Myra to sit with him. He showed her the video and explained what he had seen. Myra watched with wide eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks. The fear she had held inside for weeks began to melt away. "It was an accident," Arun said gently. "Lila loves Anya. She would never hurt her." Myra nodded, feeling a deep wave of relief. She realized how much her fear had clouded her judgment. That day, Myra took a deep breath and decided to speak openly with Lila. When Lila came to the room, Myra smiled through her tears. "I am sorry, Lila. I doubted you, and that was wrong." Lila's eyes shone with kindness. "I forgive you, Myra. I know how much you love Anya." Myra reached out and hugged Lila gently. For the first time, she felt the walls between them breaking down. The house felt warmer and lighter that evening. Trust was slowly returning, and with it, peace. Myra understood that motherhood was full of challenges: fear, doubt, and worry, but also love, forgiveness, and hope. And in that moment, Myra knew they could face whatever came next together. After the tension had eased a little between Myra and Lila, the house felt quieter, almost peaceful. Myra's heart was still tender, but she was learning to trust again. Arun was happy to see Myra smile more, and Anya's laughter filled the rooms like sunshine. Still, Myra knew that healing was a slow process. Some questions were still unanswered, and she wanted to understand everything clearly for Anya's safety and her own peace of mind. One rainy afternoon, when the sky was gray and the wind whispered softly through the trees, Myra sat in the living room sipping tea. Lila was in the kitchen preparing dinner, humming a quiet tune. Suddenly, Lila stopped. Myra could hear her footsteps coming toward the living room. Lila looked nervous but determined. Myra's heart beat faster. Was this the moment to learn the truth? Lila sat down beside Myra and took a deep breath. "Myra, there is something I need to tell you," she said quietly. Myra looked at her carefully, waiting. Lila hesitated, then began. "I have been afraid to say this because I didn't want to lose my job or your trust. But I think you should know." Myra's hands trembled slightly. "Please, Lila. You can tell me anything." Lila looked down for a moment, then met Myra's eyes again. "A few weeks ago, before Anya was born, I was involved in a small accident. It wasn't serious, but I hurt my hand without telling anyone. My hand has been weak since then. Sometimes, it trembles because of the injury." Myra listened carefully. It explained the shaking hands. She felt a wave of sympathy for Lila. "But why didn't you tell me before?" Myra asked softly. Lila's eyes filled with tears. "I was scared. I didn't want to lose this job. Taking care of Anya means everything to me. I didn't want to disappoint you. Myra reached out and held Lila's hand gently. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry you felt scared. Lila smiled through her tears. I promise, I would never hurt Anya. I have been trying my best despite the pain. Myra's heart softened even more. She realized that Lila was carrying a burden alone. I wish you had told me sooner, Myra said. We could have found a way to help you. Lila nodded. I know. I'm sorry. Myra looked at her carefully and said, from now on, we are a team. We will help each other. That evening, Arun came home and Myra shared Lila's confession with him. Arun was surprised but understanding. We will make sure Lila gets the help she needs, Arun said firmly. And we will watch over Anya together. The next day, Myra and Arun took Lila to see a doctor. The doctor examined her hand and explained that with proper care and rest, the injury could heal over time. Lila felt relieved. She was grateful for Myra and Arun's support. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Back at home, the atmosphere changed. Myra, Arun, and Lila worked as a team. Myra made sure Lila took breaks and did not overwork her hand. Arun helped more with the baby and household chores. Slowly, Myra's fear faded, replaced by trust and understanding. One afternoon, as Myra was playing with Anya in the garden, Lila came outside with a tray of tea and snacks. She smiled warmly and sat beside them. Myra looked at Lila and said, "Thank you for everything you do. We couldn't do this without you." Lila smiled back. "It is my honor to care for Anya. She is a blessing." Myra felt a deep gratitude. She realized that sometimes, people hide their struggles because of fear or pride. But with kindness and patience, those walls can be broken. That night, Myra wrote in her journal about the day's events. She wrote about fear, forgiveness, and the strength found in honesty. She thought about how motherhood was not just about caring for a child but also about learning to trust and accept help. As she closed her journal, Myra looked at Anya sleeping peacefully nearby. She whispered softly, "We will be okay, my little one. We will be okay." After Lila's confession about her injured hand, the house began to feel lighter. Myra, Arun, and Lila worked together with a new understanding and respect for each other. The days grew peaceful, and Anya's laughter filled the rooms again. But deep inside Myra, a small worry still lingered. The bruise on Anya's arm had not completely disappeared, and though Lila's injury explained the shaking hands, it did not explain everything. One quiet afternoon, Myra decided to talk to Lila again. They sat in the garden under the warm sun. Myra looked at Lila kindly but with curiosity. "Lila," Myra began softly, "thank you for telling me about your hand. It helped me understand so much. But there is still one thing I cannot forget: the bruise on Anya's arm." Lila looked down for a moment and then met Myra's eyes. "I understand, Myra. I have been afraid you would never forgive me." Myra was surprised. "Why? You told me about your hand and how you never wanted to hurt Anya." Lila nodded slowly. "That is true. But there is something else I have kept hidden. Something I did not want to tell anyone because it felt too painful." Myra's heart beat faster. She reached out and gently took Lila's hand. "You can tell me, Lila," Myra said softly. "I want to understand." Lila took a deep breath. "Before I came here to work, my own child was very sick. I could not take care of her properly. I was so worried and scared. One day, she fell and got hurt. It was my fault, I was tired and distracted. That guilt has stayed with me ever since. Tears filled Lila's eyes. I see Anya and remember my own child. I love Anya, but sometimes my heart hurts so much that I shake with fear. I never wanted to hurt her, but the fear and guilt sometimes make me nervous. Myra felt tears welling in her eyes. She understood now the bruise was not from carelessness but from a moment of fear and weakness. Lila, Myra said softly, thank you for sharing this with me. I can see how much pain you carry. Lila nodded. I have tried my best to be strong for Anya and for you. But sometimes, I need help too. Myra smiled gently. You are not alone, Lila. We are here for you. Arun joined them in the garden and listened quietly. When Lila finished, he said, we are a family now. Families help each other, especially in hard times. The days that followed were filled with support and care. Myra made sure Lila took breaks and rested. Arun helped with chores and was always ready with a kind word. Myra also spoke to a counselor, someone who could help both her and Lila heal from their fears and guilt. Slowly, the bruise on Anya's arm faded. Lila's hands stopped trembling as her heart grew lighter. One afternoon, Myra found Lila in the nursery, singing softly to Anya. The baby smiled and reached out her tiny hands. Myra smiled too, feeling a warm glow in her chest. Trust and love were growing again. That evening, as Myra prepared dinner, Arun came to her with a thoughtful look. Myra, he said, I have been thinking about everything we have been through. This experience has taught me a lot about fear, love, and forgiveness. Myra nodded. Me too. I thought I knew everything about trust, but I was wrong. Arun smiled. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to forgive and to grow. Myra felt a deep gratitude for her husband's calm wisdom. Together, they could face any challenge. That night, Myra sat by Anya's crib, watching her sleep peacefully. She whispered, we are stronger now, my little one. We will protect you always. The house was quiet, filled with love and hope. Myra knew that life was not perfect, but with patience and kindness, they could overcome any fear. And in that moment, she felt ready to face the future with open heart and open arms. The days passed gently, and the warmth of understanding grew in the house. Myra, Arun, and Lila had built a new kind of family based on trust, forgiveness, and care. Anya's laughter echoed through the rooms like a melody of hope. But one quiet evening, Arun received a phone call that would change everything. He stepped outside to answer, his voice low and serious. When he returned, Myra looked up at him, concern in her eyes. What is it? She asked softly. Arun took a deep breath. It's about Lila, and Anya. Myra's heart raced. Arun sat beside her and explained. Before Lila came to work for us, I did some digging. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I wanted to be sure Anya was safe. Myra nodded, feeling both nervous and relieved. Arun continued, I found out something unexpected. Lila's past is more complicated than we knew. She was accused once before wrongly of something serious with a child she cared for. Myra gasped. Wrongly? Yes, Arun said firmly. The family who accused her later admitted it was a mistake. They apologized, and Lila was cleared. But the fear and pain stayed with her. Myra's mind spun. That explains so much, the fear in her eyes, the trembling hands. Arun nodded. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I didn't know how. I was afraid it would make things harder. Myra looked at Lila, who stood quietly in the doorway, her eyes filled with emotion. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Arun said. But now you know the truth. Lila stepped forward, her voice gentle but steady. I never wanted to hide my past. I was ashamed. But I love Anya like my own child, and I would never hurt her. Myra reached out and took Lila's hands. I believe you, Lila. We all carry stories we are afraid to share. Lila smiled softly, tears shining in her eyes. Thank you for trusting me. That night, the house felt peaceful for the first time in a long while. Myra knew the truth had set them free. In the days that followed, Arun and Myra worked hard to support Lila, helping her heal from old wounds and fears. They saw her strength and kindness grow, and Anya blossomed in her care. One afternoon, Myra watched as Lila sang to Anya, her voice soft and full of love. The baby reached out her hands, laughing happily. Myra's heart swelled with gratitude. She understood now that fear and doubt could cloud the brightest love, but truth and forgiveness could bring it back. Arun smiled at Myra. We have all learned so much. Myra nodded. Yes, and I am thankful. Not just for Anya, but for this family we are building. Together, they had faced fear, doubt, and pain. Together, they had found trust, healing, and hope. And in the quiet moments, as Anya slept peacefully, Myra knew one thing for sure: love was the strongest truth of all.